Hello! We are back.
From Houston.
For newsletter number 6.
You were supposed to be 5 fingers.
I'm sorry. Newsletter number 6. There we go. I forgot which number I was supposed to do. We planned that ahead of time, but no big deal. Okay. Wow. Anyways, we're in Pop's kitchen right now. Up at our casita right up the hill. Pop has some contractors laying down a concrete pad for us to park on and anybody else who ends up living in the casita after us. And so it's a bit noisy. So we're down here recording. Happy to be here.
Yes.
And we're definitely going to talk about Houston, but also we'll have a further stories section talking about faith and fear, as well as our relationship with the Japanese language and studying it. So
we are back from Houston, and we want to say thank you so much for the prayers that you prayed for our time in Houston. We really did. We received so many comments from people and texts and stuff of people just saying, we're thinking of you, we're praying for you, and we really appreciate it so much. It was really encouraging to hear. We got to meet with a lot of people, and we had so many encouraging conversations, and so we'll talk a little bit about that.
And a big reason why we went at the time that we did is because there was a presbytery, the Houston Metro Presbytery was meeting at that time. So we got to go, and again, a presbytery is a meeting of elders and pastors in the area. And so it was a great chance for us to meet people face to face that we had been emailing with, and to ask them to join us and partner with us as we reach Japan and help extend gospel work there.
And so we also had some really good catch-ups with partners who reached out to us to see us, and we also got to see some of our friends and some of our family.
But even when we landed, we really had to trust God because our calendar was not completely full. And so that was something that we really prayed for, and that God was really faithful with, and filled up our calendar so much that there were people that we didn't even have time to meet with.
Yep, and so we might be coming back sometime early next year so that we can be able to meet with even more people.
And there's another presbytery too, so we might be able to hit that up as well. So while we're here, let's do a funding update, okay, our progress to the field. So it's awesome because several people we met with, they were ready to commit right away. And so that's actually brought our percent monthly giving up to 22%, which, woo, that's a really great jump. We're really thankful for that.
Yes. And then there are others who have said that they want to commit, but they still need more time to decide and discern what that looks like. And so we're really hopeful and prayerful about that number growing and increasing so that we can get to the field sooner.
Yeah. And also it's coming to the end of the year, and some of you like to do year-end donations to some type of charity or whatever, and we could be that because MTW is a 501c3 religious charity, and so anything you donate to our support account also counts as donating to MTW, and that's tax deductible and such. But even with one time, some people are getting one time even above and beyond if they're already even monthly partners. But if you do decide to give one time, that's great. But we also cannot reach the field until we reach 100% of our monthly budget. And so if you're able to partner with us monthly, we would love to do that. And if you ever want to talk with us or meet with us, we can make that happen even over video if we need to. Please reach out if you want to do that so that we can reach the second largest unreached people group in the world, Japan.
And so we'll give you just an update on what our goals look like.
Yes.
We are hoping to reach 50% of our monthly budget by the end of December. End of January. Yeah. And then be at 80% by the end of March. And prayerfully we'll have 100% by July, so that right after the pre-field training, we can go straight to Japan.
Yes, the pre-field training only takes place twice a year, and so that's why I want to make the one in July. So really trying to push for that 50% by the end of January. So help spread the word. Woo! So I wanted to talk about, as part of our main newsletter, a story about a missionary family that has been on the field since around 2015, so about 8 years. And they are the Jensens, Ben and Julie Jensen, and they have 3 boys. And like I said, they've been there for since around 2015. And we've talked about before is that a lot of missionary families they come to the field with no kids or young kids, and a thing that takes them out the field is a lack of educational
support and structure.
Yeah, for their kids. And so, they were having trouble with one of their kids, Soren, and we have been praying for them. But it's really cool. Ben and Julie Jensen, they're there. They're part of the church planting team in Nagoya, and the specific thing that they're working with are university students because statistics show that most people come to know Jesus between the ages of 10 and 30, and so that's a really great slice of the population to love and serve. And so they've been doing such great work there. But it's really cool. In their most recent newsletter, they specifically shouted out Nagoya Christian School. This is their first real full year as a hard launch because they have 2 full-time teachers there. And of course, they need more teachers in order to serve more students. But they're very thankful for what's been going on so far. And they said it's a tremendous blessing to their family. I'm looking down here at a part of their newsletter here, and I'll read a part of it. And it says, "Our 2 older boys are so happy to have a regular school to go to outside our own house and teachers beside mom and dad." So they had been trying to do some homeschooling, but they're just so thankful for this. And they specifically mentioned Soren. Soren's overall mood has greatly improved because of the school. Being able to study outside our house with other teachers, having a few friends to meet with every day, etc. And he seemed much more content being in Japan overall as a result. What a huge answer to prayer this has been for our family. And so we're really excited to be a part of being able to extend this gospel work and give these missionary families a second decade on the field.
And it's really cool to hear about what a great blessing this community has been, because it's also encouraging and hopeful for us as we plan to go to Japan and also know that there is a community being built for our own children to be a part of as well.
And there's a phenomenon that kids who are living in a foreign country, it's hard for them to belong. They don't belong to their passport country, and they don't belong to the country that they are living in currently, and they're called third culture kids. And it can be really hard, and so having these structures in place is really helpful and important for them. It'll be important for our kids as well.
Yeah. So now we'll go ahead and give you some updates on some of our previous prayer requests.
Yes.
And we'll start with our youngest little one. Jackarana just turned 3 years old a couple weeks ago, so yay for her.
Our youngest.
And she's actually doing so much better. So thank you for praying for us. Thank you for praying for her. And please continue to do so. That it's just difficult. I think everyone, I'm thinking everyone who's even watching this or listening or reading, can agree that life is just hard. And I think for her, she's experiencing some hardships in life at such a young age, just being the youngest and not being able to fully communicate her needs and wants. And but our time with her, our experience with her has been improving daily. So we really appreciate that. And I pray, guys, please continue praying for us. Yeah,
for sure. Also an update, we had asked you for prayer for our personal finances, and that's why I got to get a job and I've started subbing. So I've only gotten to sub 2 days so far, but it's been great. And it's like a little piece of myself that has been missing. This is the longest time I've gone without being in the classroom. And getting back in the classroom has been just great. I really enjoy working with young people and being playful with them, but then also holding them to a standard oh no, we are not getting on our phones. We're going to take care of some serious work here, but also just enjoying them. And I do feel like I was made to be a teacher.
And that's so cool because I thought he might come home just exhausted and kind of weary. But both times he's gone out to sub, he's come home just like a little puppy, just so happy and excited and full of life, just yay, I'm doing what I was meant to do.
Yeah. And
so it was really cool to see just how life-giving it was for him to be doing what God created him to do.
Yeah. So it's been good.
And so our other update on prayer requests is we asked y'all to please be in prayer for our kiddos while we were in Houston, and they spent time with family in Albuquerque, and they were so well cared for. They were loved on, and so we really thank you so much for praying for them and knowing that it was good for them to be able to be with their family like that. So.
Yeah. And so let's talk about prayer requests right now. And I think the biggest one right now is for our personal finances. A big reason why we moved to Santa Fe is so that we could work on fundraising full time to get to Japan sooner. And what brought us here was that Pop gave us a place to live, so rent-free living for now. And then also MTW is covering our health insurance right now, so two large expenses being taken care of. But we're still buying food. We're still buying winter clothes. We're still buying gas for traveling to Santa Fe and Los Alamos. And so that's why I picked up substitute teaching. And but we've also been drawing on our savings, and it's starting to dry up. And so if you could just be prayerful, and we know that God will provide for us. It can be scary, but we are really trusting God to provide for us. And so yeah, if you could be praying for that. And I think there's some other stuff that we're downsizing on that I can put on eBay. So there's other outlets of ways to make up for that. But that's a big prayer request for us.
And just discernment with that, because sometimes we're like, should I also get a job?
Yeah.
But every time we really consider that, we see that like my biggest role is to be home with the kiddos, and that if I were to get a job, that would be it just wouldn't be feasible with our family. So
yeah, she's the backbone. And I guess a praise also is that Heather's dad, he cut down a few trees in his backyard a few years ago, and he kept the firewood, and he doesn't have a place to use firewood, and it ended up being such a blessing. It's like, you can use my firewood, and he drove his firewood all the way up here, and we unloaded it. And then not only that, but Pop and his brother has a wood splitter, and we use that, and so we have firewood to warm our home. We have a wood burning stove in our home. And that's such a blessing, because that takes a big amount off the electricity bill. So
because it's been below freezing every night for like 2 weeks now.
Yeah, we got some serious snow.
We got some snow too, and it's supposed to snow again in a couple days. So it's been like so cold outside, and we're like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
And now it's like super duper cozy in our home because of the fire.
Yeah.
And we're really surprised at how it heats everything so well. And we're just really
very
glad.
thankful for sure.
Yeah. So if you are interested in seeing any of our past newsletters and you haven't had a chance, or you didn't receive them, we are going to leave a link for you in the newsletter, so you can go ahead and check those out there. And then we'll also love to ask you guys if there's things that you would like to hear about. Please let us know, because we want to share with you what you want to know. You can email us back at this email address that we're using to send this out, and we will respond to you, and we will also we would love to just share with you. That being said, with emailing this email address, if you also have any prayer requests, we would be glad to pray for you and with you. So please send that out. Just know that like every time that you guys do cross our minds, I do pray for you when I think of you, and it is a delight for me to do that. So if you have specific things that you want someone to pray with you for, just let me know.
Yes. So yeah, me too. I like praying for you guys too. So this is the end of the main section of the newsletter, and we're going to move on to further stories. So let's talk about Japanese study. So 2 newsletters ago, you might remember in the further stories section, talked about how I was deciding to pump the brakes on my own Japanese study, because I was just making it way too important. I'd made my own schedule, and I realized that God is way better at making schedules than I am. So I really wanted to submit that to God, because at the time I was like going to spend like 5 or 6 hours every morning working on Japanese, which, I mean, that would do wonders for my Japanese ability. But I realized I was making it more important sometimes than reading my Bible or prayer, and sometimes more important than family. And even more recently, a friend of ours, Stephen, who's also going to Japan with his wife, Crystal, who's been studying Japanese for 10 years, is like, why not include your family in your Japanese study? Like, that's knocking out 2 birds with 1 stone. And well, he actually said stacked, not hacked, but that's a whole nother thing. But yeah,
conversation for another time.
It is. But all that to say is that you know, wow, like I can involve my family in this. Like we can do it all at the same time. And so recently, been working that more into our schedule, tentatively, still trying to submit it to the Lord. And it's been good so far. And not only that, but Heather May has also started, and she's hand translating a favorite Japanese song. And it's been really cool. We've been also doing flashcards and watching movies and stuff in Japanese, and just studying and reading carefully. And yeah, there's lots of ways to study Japanese, but please pray for us that it's something that we would give time to, because in a way I started to realize that part of the reason why I wasn't studying Japanese wasn't just because I was submitting it to the Lord, which is true, I was, but I started to realize it's also me being lazy. I don't want to work hard at something that is hard to do, and it is hard to do. And so I want to ride that balance of doing hard things, but also not making it the ultimate thing.
Right.
Yeah. So pray for us for that, for sure. And the other story I wanted to share is landing in Houston. And we mentioned in the main part of the newsletter how our schedule was not completely filled. There were a few people who had responded ahead of time. Yes, let's meet this time, this date. Yes, love planning ahead. But not everybody's able to plan ahead for things. And so just even landing in Houston, I was spending that morning and that day, not the whole day, but fasting and praying and just trying to give it to the Lord and asking for help. But there were still in the following days feelings of fear and feelings like, oh my gosh, this is all up to me. And I ended up reaching out to a few people over text, and one of my friends texted me back with this image here, and it's a quote from a missionary, Elisabeth Elliot, and she said, "Fear arises when we imagine that everything depends on us." Wow. That was helpful, because a big part of the fear is like, am I going to be faithful? Like, am I going to do everything I need to do? And really just putting all the responsibility on me when really God, it's my creator. He is the one who's going to make things happen or not. And I can trust him and I can count on him. And just learning that lesson again and again. And I just thought that was such a helpful quote, and it's from a lady that I know that Heather really respects, and I wanted to give her a chance to share some of Elisabeth Elliot's story, just to end out our newsletter.
Yeah, so it's really cool that he received an Elisabeth Elliot quote, because she's one of the very first missionary stories I ever pored over and looked deeply into when I first became a Christian at about 19 years old. And her story had really captured my heart because of the depth of forgiveness that she had to walk through in order to love the Lord and love other people. She was a missionary in Ecuador back in the 1950s, 1960s. 3 years after she had moved there with her husband, Jim Elliot, he was murdered with 4 other missionaries by a tribe local to Ecuador. And it was her and some of the wives of the men who were also killed returning to that tribe 2 years after and being missionaries to the same tribe that killed all their husbands, that seeing the forgiveness and love that they had for them, their tribe turned from one being so filled and defined by their violence to one that loved deeply and received the love of the Lord. And I remember it obviously still captivates me today to think of that depth of forgiveness and love for people, because I would pray that would be the kind of love and forgiveness that God would use and work out in my own heart and in my own life. And so it was really cool to see that. And she passed away back in 2015. And I just recently saw an article on her that said Elisabeth Elliot was a flawed human through whom God did amazing things. And I like that title because it's just which of us isn't a flawed human? I know, it's
hey, we're
right?
in that category.
And it's just God uses flawed humans, he uses all of us. And he can do amazing and great things through anyone. And that's his instrument, is the flawed human whom he redeems and he restores. And so anyways, just a really encouraging story. If you ever want to listen or read up on her, there's several books on her life and her husband Jim's life, and even books that she's written about other missionaries and stuff. So yeah.
So that's the end of our November newsletter. We hope you had a nice Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next time. Bye.